Good Thursday afternoon, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Greg Armbrecht here. Wanted to give you the very latest on our weather here in Charlotte, and of course the very latest on our Category 5 storm Irma that continues to churn down in the Caribbean. In the short term, what a beautiful day. Again, most people probably watching this video right now from Charlotte, but if you're from out of the area checking our Facebook Live right now, I'll tell you what, you're missing a beautiful day. Check out the skyline. Mike Johnson's Hickory Toyota Tower Cam, just a beautiful day. The crystal blue skies, we have the low humidity, and check out these temperatures. Can't beat this. Almost fall-like out there, well below average by almost 10 degrees today. Lower 60s, that's borderline cool into the high country. In the low to mid 70s for all of us. Keep in mind the average high this time of the year, 83, 84 degrees. So we're beating that again by close to 10 degrees. And the big difference is today those dew points back in the 40s and 50s. So everybody's talking about Irma, but hopefully you've been outside getting a chance to enjoy this today. Had a chance to take the girls out to the park. Had a blast with that, saw lots of families outside. So it seems like everybody's enjoying that. Also went out today to get a little bit of water and some food just to prepare for what could be Irma as it moves in this direction, and saw a lot of people out there getting water as well. So a lot going on out there today. Satellite and radar, again, nothing going on right now. Crystal blue skies for everybody on the other side of the mountains. Just a few fair weather cumulus there, but nothing to be alarmed about. The reason being our friend high pressure continues to protect us. I wish I could say it was going to protect us all the way through next week. That's not going to be the case, but in the short term, again, high pressure, the dominant force here, which means clear skies, comfortable temperatures. In fact, tonight, don't be shocked, it's going to be a little bit chilly out there. Overnight lows 52 or 53, which is probably a record low temperature in Charlotte tonight. We tied it this morning at 53. Tomorrow morning probably 52 or 53, and the record low before that was 54. So it's actually going to be very chilly tonight. Probably want to crack the window. Tracking Hurricane Irma, we'll get right to it. Of course, this is what everybody's curious about. Unfortunately, still a very strong, not just a Category 5 storm, still a very strong Category 5 storm. It's unbelievable. Unfortunately, if you were down or have ever been to Turks and Caicos or have any interest in that area, this is where I went on my honeymoon, Turks and Caicos. Just absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, right now, the hurricane still well-defined. Check out that eye. We've seen that eye on this hurricane now for 3 days, which is unheard of. It's usually typically tough to get a hurricane as a Category 5 storm to last more than a day or two. Today's day 3. And again, it looks beautiful. It's just so destructive. You can see there's no shear out there whatsoever. In fact, it's actually getting larger. That'd be the one difference I would say over the past couple of days. Before, it was a Category 5 storm that was tightly wrapped. It was a smaller storm. Now it's still a Category 5 storm. It's actually getting bigger. You can just see how wide this thing is. Right now, again, heading right towards Turks and Caicos. You know, thoughts and prayers with the families there. Any interest there? Again, just a terrible situation. A storm of this magnitude is just going to be completely destructive. Just north of Dominican Republic and Haiti, and of course here's Cuba off to the west, and it's going to remain north of Cuba. It's not going to make any land interaction. They'll still have hurricane force winds and some heavy rain, but it's not going to make any land interaction, which means it's not going to weaken a whole lot. I do expect it to weaken at least a little bit over the next couple of days, but again, we're going from a Category 5 storm that has winds right now sustained at 175. Maybe it knocks it back to 140, but again, anything over 120 miles per hour, it's just completely destructive, so it's not going to have much of an impact on the overall strength. Winds right now 175 miles per hour. That's weaker than the 185 miles per hour from yesterday, but you could just see it didn't look a whole lot different. Pressure has gone up a little bit by about 5 millibars, but again, by all means, this is an incredibly healthy hurricane. We need it to weaken a lot more than what we have right there. Hurricane Irma will continue off to the west-northwest, and then unfortunately, this is the latest track. It'll remain just north of Cuba, but I do want you to notice here by Sunday afternoon, really between Saturday night and Sunday morning, it's going to make landfall with the current track just to the west of Miami. This is the worst possible case scenario. Winds probably between about 130 and 140 miles per hour at landfall just west of Miami. The problem with that is any hurricane, the absolute strongest side is on the eastern side. And with this track, it would put Miami just on the eastern side. We'd get all the water coming in as well. Winds, again, 140 miles per hour, probably gusting higher than that, and some very heavy rainfall. If there's any silver lining with this storm, and believe me, this is a stretch, it's going to be the fact that it is picking up its pace a little bit as it continues to move in this direction, probably 20 to 25 miles per hour. So the flood threat won't be as great, but again, with winds that strong, there's still going to be flooding. No matter how you look at the storm, it's just bad news. It's going to move up through Florida. The bad news for Florida is it's going to affect the entire state. For areas north of that, in particular our Charlotte area, as it moves over land, it will weaken quicker, as opposed to if it was in the Atlantic. If it was in the Atlantic and it took a track out here, the storm system wouldn't weaken as much. As it moves over Florida, it's going to weaken. Terrible news again for Florida, but areas further north, it will be a weaker storm. Monday afternoon, winds of 90 miles per hour, still a Category 1 storm just north of Jacksonville, just to the west of Savannah. And then it's going to begin to make a hook a little bit further up to the west-northwest, which means down through South Carolina and North Carolina. We're on that eastern side, so we are still expecting tropical storm force winds at times. Could gust as high as 70 miles per hour with the current track. But notice it weakens significantly by Tuesday afternoon, well up to the north and west of us. Winds at 45 miles per hour. So again, I'm expecting tropical storm force winds that extends all the way down into parts of South Carolina and North Carolina. And with the storm being a little bit further off to the west, that also bring back the rainfall totals a little bit. So things look a little bit better for Charlotte. But again, I'm not saying Monday and Tuesday are still going to be very, very rough days. There's just no way around it at this point. The question is just how rough. Last night at this point, we were talking about rainfall totals between about 4 and 6 inches. The latest computer models have backed off a little bit, but we're still talking about a soaking rain here. Notice most areas between about 2 and 4 inches, but again, give it some wiggle room. Of course, with tropical systems, you get those tropical downpours, so even though this is only putting out 2 or 3 inches at this point, that doesn't mean localized areas still won't see 5 or 6 inches. So flooding's still a concern, although it has come back just a little bit. Another model for you out there just to compare, that was 2.6 inches of rain in Charlotte. This one has 2.7. So the one thing that we do like here is the fact that the models are lining up well, showing pretty much the same thing. So 2 to 4 inches of rain, I personally think it'll be a little bit higher. Models always underdo tropical systems. So this is saying 2 to 4, probably more like 3 to 6. So there will be some areas of flooding, but again, it's an improvement over what we had yesterday. And as far as winds, this is just showing the likelihood of tropical storm force winds. I do think we're going to see gusts in the Charlotte area, definitely into tropical storm force winds, maybe even as high as 60 or 70 miles per hour, probably just short of a hurricane force winds. We still have 4 days to watch this. Again, the wiggle room on these storms, there's still an awful lot to talk about. And the one thing I do want to point out here just before we let you go, we'll back this up. The big pivotal thing with this whole hurricane, and it always has been this way, we know it's continuing to track to the west-northwest. What we don't know for sure, and we're starting to get a better idea on this, but we just don't know for sure exactly when does this hook happen. If it happens further out into the ocean, then it stays out into the Atlantic, and that would keep the storm much stronger. If it makes a hook later, it goes up through Florida and it's going to weaken. Right now we think it's going to be later, which would ultimately give us a weaker storm as it moves up through Florida, but we just don't know that for sure. So right now it looks like Miami is in the worst possible position you could be in, but again, even for them, if you're watching from Miami, this whole track could change, and if it ends up being all the way out to the east, you would only have minor impacts. So we just don't know that exact track just yet. We'll have to continue to watch that, but this is the latest guidance that we can give you 4 days out. 4 days out for anything, it's pretty hard to predict. In the short term, don't want to leave you with all bad news. Beautiful night. This is my kind of weather. 52 degrees, clear skies, record low temperatures tonight. Crack the window, get outside. Of course, with the family, it's going to be a beautiful evening. Also a chance not just to get outside, but to make those preps just in case we do have impacts from Irma next week. Long story short, enjoy the next couple of days. Remain weather-wise over the next few as Irma approaches Monday to Tuesday. I'll give you another update when we get more information. Have a great night.